Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please stand for a moment of silence? But I would ask for you, if you would, during this time, there's a young girl at Spring Creek Elementary School. She's down at Arnold Palmer Hospital, hanging on for her life. But she is said to be doing a little better today. But her name is Riley. If you will, just mention her name in that time. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda?
I have two. First of all, we're going to pull 8.02 for no action. That's an item we're going to bring back during a workshop. And I'm also pulling 8.12 for no consideration based on the limited number of applicants in response to the RFP. And we're going to start that process over and maximize our communications to select hopefully a larger pool of applicants for that particular RFP.
All right, board members, you have anything? Thank you.
No.
Nothing. All right, approval of the minutes.
Recommend approval of the minutes from the regular school board meeting September 23rd, 2019, the special school board meeting September 30th, 2019, the executive session for school safety October 14th, 2019, and the school board workshop October 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving on to our district representation. Ms. Owens?
Lake County Schools is a place where our students are learning and growing into the leaders of tomorrow, and they have amazing educators who work tirelessly to help bring out their best. September 20th, educators across the nation participated in Rock Your School, a day of creative learning started by Hope and Wade King at Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. Teachers participate by transforming their classrooms to create a fun and unique learning experience for their students. Last year, Lost Lake Elementary and Eustis Heights Elementary led the way in Lake County Schools. This year, teachers at Astatula Elementary and Tavares Elementary joined the efforts with a variety of themes to get students excited about learning.
We all are getting together today to Rock Your School, which means we are getting high participation, active engagement of our children, focusing on our content and our standards in a fun and engaging way. Children are now learning how to multiply, making arrays, and drawing out the equations. And so all of my kids today are participating in various activities in a glow-in-the-dark theme, working on their math standards. I'm hoping that my students get a deeper understanding of the multiplication process, understanding what the equation means, and understanding how to write out the expression and how to properly represent the expression using the various GLOW activities that we have and other engaging activities.
We are doing text detectives, and I chose that because we are doing, our standard right now is identifying the main topic and key details. What the kids are doing is they're actually solving different activities throughout curriculum. They have math tasks, they have ELA tasks, they have science tasks that they have to do to find their clue, which is actually a key detail. And once they get all their key details, they're going to determine the main topic. I just wanted to kind of bring everything in together and just have one big day of learning across the curriculum. It's getting them excited, which gets me excited, and we just kind of run off of each other's energy. So.
Not only are LCS teachers involved in the Rock Your School initiative, but principals are also playing an important role.
I think it's very important to support teachers' learning styles. Teaching is keeping up with some of the challenges that we have to keep students engaged in the classroom. They have lots of things outside of the learning environment that we have to compete with, video games and that kind of stuff. And so sometimes just doing maybe how I was taught in the classroom years ago with just the teacher talking to students and then filling in, maybe not is the most effective way nowadays. So I think everything that we can do to make teaching exciting for students and for teachers, that's what our job is here at the school, to support them.
We want students to love to learn. And in doing so, the teachers have to look at their instructional practices to deliver content in an extraordinary way, in a different way. In doing so, they've created something spectacular for the students for them to want to be here every day. So I applaud them for doing Rock Your Classroom, Rock Your School.
I hope it motivates them, it gets them excited to come to school, because I want them to be happy to be here and excited to learn. I love being a teacher. I'm so excited to be here.
Lake County Schools is committed to providing students with individual opportunities to excel. Stay tuned as we continue shining a light on what makes Lake great.
That's great. Great job. All right, next we have representation, and we have the district Mount Dora Community Trust presentation, and Ms. Gail Widener will be standing in for Ms. Carmen tonight. We have also, I should say, from the Educational Foundation, Rob English.
He's with the Mount Dora Community Trust.
Okay.
So, Chairman Gamble, school board members, superintendent, thank you very much for allowing me to be here this evening. Mount Dora Community Trust has been an amazing partner with the foundation for many, many years. They've provided funding for our Take Stock in Children program. They've provided funding for the past 2 years for our ACT reading prep program. And this year, they're going to be providing us with some funding for our Missing T in STEM program, which I'm going to allow Mr. English to explain what that is and what the funding is going to be going to. So thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and Chairman and school board members, and Ms. Cornegie, for the opportunity to come and just tell you how proud we are to help support the school. When we first found out about this situation within our schools, we were distressed. The Mount Dora Community Trust is a community foundation that's been in existence for 47 years, started with $10,000, and now within our organization is $18 million, supplying all kinds of needs throughout Lake County, and the Mount Dora name is a misnomer. But we have specific accounts within our organization that are for Mount Dora, and since Mount Dora is where we started, there's a special love for the high school there, and a lot of love and people within our organization. So when we found out what the need was specifically at the Mount Dora High School for these Chromebooks and the shortfall, we decided to present that to our distribution committee, our board, and they voted to make the contribution of $3,000 for the shortfall for the Mount Dora High School. And I think it's a wonderful thing, and Sarah and I were Sarah Herrick is our grant and scholarship manager, and she did all the homework for this, but we were talking, we remember the backpacks, and we lugged around 6 different books for 6 different classes. Oh, the joy to be able to just take a Chromebook, I guess, and not have to fool with all of that. But we're honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to present. We just want to get a short picture. We appreciate all the work you do, trying to balance all the budget, and we are just happy to help with a little bit of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we go down? You want us to go down?
Yeah, we'd love to.
Okay.
All of you. We want all of y'all down, if y'all don't mind.
He normally doesn't let us out very often.
No hiding.
Just to explain, when he's talking about a shortfall, we have the $32 fee for the Chromebooks, for the maintenance fee, and there were some students and families who were in need of some financial support for that, so this was a way to be able to help support those families in need.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on to public input. We have one card at this time for public input, and that is Mr. Stuart Klatt in regards to Fund One Future. Okay.
It does look like.
Why, good evening. Thank you for the timer. Superintendent, Chairman Gamble, I'm glad to be here. Talk about FEA's Fund Our Future campaign. We've kicked it off with a bus tour, and it's a campaign-style rally going to 30 counties and 50 stops, culminating on January 13th at the legislature, bringing attention to funding of public education. Because we know that we've seen the neglect of public schools, state overreach in the ways of local controls, over-testing of our schools, and Florida ranks in the bottom of 10 states nationally in funding for students. Florida has dropped to 46th in the nation for staff wages, and many of the classified are working at below poverty line. So we decided that we needed a decade of progress to bring Florida schools from the bottom into the top 10, considering Florida has the third largest economy of any state in the nation, the 17th largest economy in the world compared to countries. So it's kind of embarrassing that we are being funded in public education in the bottom 10. So this is an effort overall to put pressure on legislators, utilizing community, our teachers, advocates for education, you all as well, that need to put pressure on our legislature. For next year, we're looking at a $2.5 or $2.4 billion investment for teacher raises, classified workers raises, and infrastructure, because that's been woefully neglected in the last 5-10 years. So I just wanted to bring you up to date. I've given you a press release that went out today talking about the program, what we're doing. The week of November 17th through the 23rd, the bus tour will be in Polk County and Orange County, Seminole, Osceola. We're not stopping in Lake, but in some of our neighboring counties, there will be stops and events to bring attention. And so please join us. I look forward to it. Thank you much.
All right, moving on to our attorney's report.
Excuse me, I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then moving on to our consent agenda, Superintendent.
I recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01, 8.03 to 8.11, 8.13 to 10.05.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Under discussion, Mr. Johnson, you had a comment you want to make on this?
Sir, I didn't know if you were going to allow the public comment for.
Well, I didn't know if, after she hears what you got to say,
That's up to you.
if she wants to speak, but we can let her speak now.
Either way, whichever you prefer.
Okay, we can do that.
That's fine with me.
We'll do that.
I'll make it quick.
You may want to wait.
I had a call, a couple calls and a letter from the attorney for the Florida Charter Educational Foundation. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the charter school. It's Seven something.
Seven Lakes?
Yes, sir. Seven Lakes Preparatory School. Okay. Anyway, they contacted me and asked if the school board would consider extending the length of time that they had to open a school based on a change in the statute. Our contract calls for the school to be open within 2 years of its initiation, which is this coming September. And the statute changed. It used to only allow 2 or require 2. Now it's 3 years that the charters have to be able to respond. That's not the end of the discussion about that. That's just the factual outline of where we are. I'm going to provide an opinion to you before you decide on this issue. And then you can make a call on whether or not to proceed one way or the other with it. In the meantime, because of the notice, the charter was not able to get anybody here to represent it. They asked for either a telephone conference call or a chance to come back at the next meeting. Told them that we don't really allow people to participate by calls unless certain circumstances are met, but that I would recommend that we allow them to be tabled until the next regularly scheduled school board meeting for discussion. It's really something that's a year and a half out. It was close to the exact number of days for the notice provision, I think, when we got around to when it actually got put on the agenda. So it's not something that I think is worth arguing with the Charter Appeals Commission about a notice of 1 or 2 days either way. So since there's no immediate impact, I think it's prudent that we go ahead and table the matter until the next meeting, which is November 18th.
Okay. Ms. Ringwood, hearing that, you want to wait till then to make your? Okay. All right, then Superintendent will ask for your recommendation.
I'm recommending that we take no action on item 11.01.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Before you do that, could we table it to the next meeting?
I thought that's what you said.
Set the table.
I don't think the word table was in there.
I did not use the word table.
Oh,
I amend to the word.
That we'd forever never take action on 11.01.
And we table it until the next meeting.
So moved. Again.
Second.
oh, again? All right, so now we have it properly done. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Speaking of next meeting, if you'll recall, we made some changes to the schedule because both of the meetings in November fell on holidays. And we did schedule that meeting for November 18th. We do not, because of the 2 holidays, that does not allow for us to have a workshop in the month of November unless we do it on a day other than a Monday. So I just want to propose to you a couple of things. We do need the next workshop that we have. There's 3 items that we need to have on that agenda. One is we are ready for the 2 DA schools to come back to you to share their school improvement plans. So if we do not have a meeting in November, this would be December 2nd would be our next opportunity. So I'll tell you what's on the agenda, and if you'll let Natalie or I know if you would like to have the workshop on December 2nd, or you'd like to schedule it earlier, such as maybe prior to the meeting on the 18th, which sometimes gives us a very long afternoon when we do that, but it's certainly up to you all. The DA schools, school improvement plans is one. We also have the presentation of the charter application that was submitted by Pinecrest for middle school and high school that we need to workshop, as well as Mr. Mock has the Booster Club audit that we pulled from tonight's agenda that we want to workshop. So those are the 3 items that we have coming up, so we can hear all of those on December the 2nd or sometime in November if you'd like to let me know what your preference is.
December 2nd for me. You want to know now?
If y'all like to discuss it, that would be up to the chair.
You want to go ahead and make a decision now, or you want to wait?
Well, we're,
December
now.
2nd.
we're all here.
Second.
Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah. I mean,
Doesn't seem
do we
time
need?
sensitive.
Is
For
the
us.
DA school time sensitive? I feel like I'm really loud today.
No, their school improvement plan is already actively in place, and there's a lot happening there, so it'd be a good chance maybe for them to even give you an update on some of the progress of, as far as we almost hit that mid-year mark. A few other things that I wanted to mention. I want to publicly congratulate Linda Shepherd-Miller as our Principal of the Year. Excited for her in Lake Mineola High School, and Debbie Hartog at Triangle Elementary, who is our Assistant Principal of the Year. Congratulations to them. And I also want to congratulate Jim Roy. He's our safety and school specialist, who y'all know very well. He gave up many months of long nights, weekends, going through the police academy because he felt like it was important for his position to be a sworn deputy. And so he went through the Lake County Sheriff's Department's Police Academy and was sworn in last week. And so that's very proud of him and appreciate the time that he gave to going through that process. So thank you to him. And also, we had lots of good news coming up last week. Our drum major, Timothy Rodriguez of Leesburg High School, you probably saw that on social media, was selected to lead the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, so we're excited for him. And also, I'm sure you saw Sherry Jakowski from Freeland Park Elementary, who was able to,
It's amazing.
able to do the Heimlich and remove the food that was lodged in the child's throat. And, so we're very grateful to her and to her training that came thanks to our folks here that did the CPR and other trainings for our employees. And congratulations to Lake Mineola High School, winning its first ever football district title on Friday night. And last week, I went to Orlando, where we were awarded the Speak Out Program of the Year Award. Thanks for the work of Joe Zeiler with Kevco Builders, the donations that he made to our schools for the wrapped vehicles. And it was a very nice event in the room with about 300 law enforcement officers to be able to be recognized for our work to help keep our kids safe. So thank you to Joe and congratulations to him and to everyone who was involved in that initiative. We have no letters of condolence.
Mr. Mathias?
This will be relatively quick, maybe. So in the last 18 months, shortly after Parkland, one of our teachers wrote a very passionate piece on Facebook, and that piece made sort of national news. It went viral. And shortly after that, there was a constituent who lives in Eustis who began an attack on this teacher. It has been relentless, the post on Facebook, and to the teacher who lives in fear because the person is faceless, that she doesn't know where she will show up, to anyone that would cross this person, that they become the subject of a continued attack. And for this board member, I researched this person, and her name is Ellen Judd. And Mrs. Judd was formerly Ellen Cantrell. She has issues in her past that she has internalized the comments from our teacher on Facebook, that somehow she failed as a parent, and that will be for her spirit to judge. But our teacher never intended or didn't know who this person was at the time, but it has gone off the charts. Now, I addressed Mrs. Judd with everything that I know about her and her past, and told her as long as she stayed under her rock that I would be fine. The fact is, she hasn't. She recently posted on our school board site, and this cannot go unanswered. We have got to put a stop to this harassment of our teachers by this particular person or anyone else that takes a direct attack on one of our folks. And since she comments about our school board meetings, I think she knows that I'm speaking to her right now, and I hope that she understands that we need to stop this. So I would ask our attorney. I know that the particular teacher has been to the state's attorney. I've called the sheriff about it, and apparently, and I've actually organized a group, and we would report her at every post to Facebook. None of it apparently reached the level, but it is relentless, and it's not fair. It's not fair to any of our folks, and I am over it. And Mr. Johnson, we need to figure out something.
I'm relentless, like daily, and sometimes 10 times a day.
And very uncalled for, like
When he says
like
relentless,
really-
define relentless, it is every single day.
The teacher in question sent me over 300 screenshots.
Right. Wow. It is like relentless. I don't even know if it.
And I've seen the attacks. I mean, it's uncalled for and bizarre.
And if you say something, then your name gets added.
Yeah,
to the
I got
relentless
attacked too.
list.
It was fun.
No, we're elected, so I
Yeah,
got it. When
so we expect
When
it.
she turns on us, it's okay. It is not okay to turn on one of our troops. And actually, not just one. It's as teachers come to her defense, then they get added to her rant. And it is absolutely uncalled for. She is an evil person, and I would suggest that anyone put her in her place, I guess. But I think that's what she's looking for.
I assume she's mentally ill, frankly. But I don't know what we can do.
I just had to get it off my chest, that's all.
All right. Stephanie?
I'm glad that you did, though. I think it's a problem that needs to be addressed. I was going to thank Mr. Ward and Mr. Farnsworth and Ms. Cornegie for coming for the conversations with Cornegie last week. On Wednesday, we met with the Umatilla teachers, and surrounding schools were invited, I think, but it's a good presentation, and we appreciate the work that you guys are doing to help that, and the Board of County Commissioner letter that you shared this afternoon, and with the FEA's bus tour. I feel like everybody's moving in the same direction, which is nice. So I just wanted to say thanks for that.
Mr. Dodd?
Yeah, okay, so I've got a little handout to distribute to the board members here. What I'm sharing with you is the breakdown of some fees paid by 2 students in one of our middle schools at the beginning of the year. And the summary of these fees are all required, that there's nothing there that's optional, no extracurriculars, no sports, none of that kind of stuff, just fees to be, one's called a required student fee, and the others are fees associated with certain classes that the students are taking. So it came of surprise that they totaled this amount, $269 for the 2 kids of required fees to attend a middle school in our district. And being that was a bit shocking to me, I followed up with the superintendent and said, is this typical? Is this normal? And so she did some work and surveyed all the middle schools, and I think we were both a bit surprised by what we found, the spectrum, that there are schools in our district that charge nothing or next to nothing for these classes. And then you have other cases where they're charging, well, in this case, $269 for the 2 kids. So one, I think we're struggling to find the consistency there. But then I thought, what further kind of brought this to light is I received an email from a parent of a new high schooler who just moved to our district, also questioning these fees. And I said, well, boy, this sounds awfully familiar to that conversation I had at the beginning of the year. So I kind of dug back through the files, pulled this one back out, and I thought it's worthy of revisiting. Here we're hearing from another parent now with concerns with required fees, and said, gosh, if I had just taken these courses through virtual school, would we have seen these kinds of fees, or what would we expect? And so prompting that dialogue, the superintendent and I had a bit of a conversation that maybe this might be something that Tom Mock might be interested in diving into. So I gave Tom a call to ask, because certainly he's got some project time available. And I said, so what do you think? And he says, well, we don't have a policy on this, so you wouldn't necessarily be auditing against a policy or for compliance or anything. But we did talk about how he could gather the work that the superintendent's already done and kind of look into what are we seeing across our district. We know that the Constitution of the state of Florida says that you get free public schools. So I'm not quite sure that a school can say it's a required student fee that is assessed to all students, but our schools aren't necessarily in compliance with that essence of the spirit of a free public school. what's going on with these fees? Are they generating a profit? You know, one of the items I indicated on there for the required student fee includes an ID, an agenda, and a locker. Well, we know that lockers are there when we build the school, so they didn't have, shell out any dollars for that. But the ID and agenda, I'm not sure total the $15, and so it seems like there might be some profit there. What is happening with the profits? Or then there's always the theory that schools are using the school discretionary budgets that we give them that's generated by FTE that tends to be year specific, but then when the student pays the fee, it comes back in internal accounts, and suddenly all those restrictions seem to potentially disappear. So that's worth looking at. Naturally, Tom, he doesn't work at the pleasure or liberty of one single board member. So this is just something I wanted to lob to you guys out to see if this is something that you're interested in some more information about him diving into and reporting back. I guess answering those questions of, are we being excessive in our fees? Are they allowable? What's going on with the profits? Should we have some sort of policies on this? I mean, it goes to the extent of where I was informed of a student who is not able to attend any extracurricular activities because she has not paid her required student fee. So no clubs, no sports, no dances, none of that stuff. And I don't know, it just doesn't sit real well with me. But just wanted to, I guess, I'm not quite sure the process to direct Mr. Mock if we need to put this on an agenda to vote on to amend his plan, or if we could just say, yes, use your project time to do that, or.
I think as a board, as long as we direct him as a board.
But do we need him involved? Can't the superintendent, can't you and your staff put together? I don't know why we need him.
Right.
Well, I know that one of the things that we wanted to look at are what are some of the policies that are consistent in other districts. I thought that he could look into. This is actually a time-consuming project. As I kind of delved into it with our middle schools, then the high schools, as we saw that it was a broader scope that we really wanted to look into. And the questions started getting deeper and deeper. What are the fees being used for? Every school is different. Their needs are very different. Some of these I think you'll find are justifiable. Some of them maybe not. But without staff having to spend a lot of time with every school, looking at every fee and getting the rationale, it seemed like maybe that might be a good use of his time to really delve in and do all of the data collection, as well as looking at if there are policies in other districts. So I would certainly support the idea of him working on this project.
I'm fine with it then. Totally fine.
I'm fine with it too, as long as when you say like he'll speak with them, like he's going to look at them and actually ask. So, like we just said, every program's different. It'd be interesting to me to see. I know sometimes some of the offerings are so much different. Sometimes the opportunities are so much better with the costs that are associated. So I don't want to do anything drastic until we have that background information. Which
Yeah, I think the background, like I do know with my son, there was just the discussion of band, and he wasn't interested, but I think it was briefly brought up. Some parents choose not to do band because there's a fee, and that can be a barrier. And it wasn't not for my child. I could pay for it if he had an interest, but not everyone can. So that's something we should be looking at, especially if the fee is $100. I don't remember how much it was at Tavares.
Is that including a uniform?
no.
I think it varies based on the school.
Because in Tavares Middle School, they do have uniforms there.
I think it would vary. I think it's part of the question that you have to ask.
And that question kind of came up last year a bit when a member of the community had reached out to me and said, why is my grandchild's fee so expensive at this particular school? I think Sherry had actually helped us out and kind of surveyed the schools, and when she reported back, there was a range. There were some schools who were charging nothing, and there were schools that were charging $100. And last thing I want to do as a board is mandate that a school go in and charge a fee when they don't want to, or to strike down opportunities that are supported by the parents and students. So I guess where I'm just kind of diving in here.
It's interesting that the majority of these fees, like my son has a science fee for his science class, but doesn't, have the art fees. So these are almost all art, except for uniforms, which aren't necessary for PE.
Well, and that was the question I got from the parent of the high school student saying, we have athletic clothes. Why can't he wear those? Why does he have to buy the school's athletic clothes, and that's another fee. And that situation got even more complex because, the parent had just moved, didn't have a lot of money. I think it was her mother who wrote a check. The student walks in with the check, and the school says, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't take checks." And so then he had to bring the check back home, and apparently he was getting zeros because he's not dressing out because he didn't have the right clothes. And then the parents like, well, I don't have the funds to go onto right now on this school website to pay for a uniform for you. Oh, and then if I do, I'm gonna have to pay an extra 3.61% because your school doesn't take a check. So that was another piece of that message that I had gotten.
I think it's something we should look into.
Okay.
I think the next step, I don't recall exactly what the policy says, but I believe Mr. Mock would prepare a scope of work and then bring back that to you at the next meeting for your approval of the scope of what exactly he's supposed to do.
Okay. All right. Very good. I told him if the board was interested in moving forward, I'd be happy to sit down with him and make sure we get all the questions included in, and then he could, I guess, proceed with that. So I guess I'll ask him to prepare a scope for us that we can look at. Thanks.
Anything else?
That's it.
I just wanted to encourage everyone to attend the Lady of the Lakes Renaissance Fair. I think Carmen, who is in charge, had mentioned that we're like the 8th in the state, or was it country? I mean, it was country? Yeah, 8th in the country. I mean, it's really cool, and people really work really hard at it. All of our kids are, a bunch of our kids from South Lake will be the actors, and when you go, it's all fairies, and everyone's wonderful, and it's just fun. It's one of my favorite events of the year. So it starts this weekend, and the November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and also November 9th through 10th. Go out, have fun with your family. It's a blast, and there's a lot of awesome food, all made by our kids. It's just a great fundraiser. So I wanted to encourage everyone to do that.
All right. Just in closing, the young girl I mentioned at the beginning, she's a 5th grader at Spring Creek. And if you believe in prayer, say one for her. Her name is Riley. Thank you. We're adjourned.
She's on the face.
Well, Steve.